What's a secret you'll never tell your significant other? Story 1. His family is insensitive, uncaring, entitled, and extremely self-centered. They are completely unaware of how their comments and actions affect others. For example, his sister makes horrible comments about me having MS and how everyone having to slow down for me when we go somewhere is so inconvenient and pointless that I should just stay home. She also knows that I am on immune-lowering treatment that makes me super susceptible to respiratory illnesses and that I almost died from bacterial pneumonia in January, yet she showed up to dinner at our house last Monday with the flu, did not even try to distance herself from me or her elderly parents, did not wash her hands before touching the serving utensils. She seems to deliberately find reasons to lean toward my face or lean over my plate instead of washing it. If my darker thoughts prevail, I almost suspect that she is deliberately trying to make me sick. And she succeeded, and I am now bedridden with the flu. His parents also often comment on my inability to make as much money as they think is respectable. They are blue-collar in the trades and generally make up to $100K a year, if not more, Canadian. I do the best I can, but I am physically unable to work such a job and earn that kind of income. My boyfriend and I have a financial arrangement, and I contribute as much as my income allows. He is happy with that. I also do not consider the fact that his parents have never told him they love him, hugged him, or shown him affection a good thing. He sees nothing at all wrong with the fact that his father has never told him he loves him, never hugged him, never thanked him for his service and gifts from my boyfriend. He does service work in return, and my BF says that is enough to know that his father loves him. I understand that too, but I don't think it is enough. It took him years to develop the ability to express his emotions, and now he doesn't know how to deal with them well. I do not want to see him stressed out. I wish they were kinder people. I grew up the exact opposite, but my family loves me dearly, and they're not shy about telling me. My family loves me dearly, and they're not shy about saying it and giving me hugs. So it's hard to understand the dynamics of his family. Story 2. I'm broke right now. I love my girlfriend, and we started dating when I had a new job that paid well. I was laid off, wrongfully, I believe, and had no means of unemployment. When we are not together, I spend most of my free time on DoorDash, and I end up spending most of it going out. She knows I am unemployed, but I don't think she knows that DoorDash pays the least and that I have a lot of bills to pay. She doesn't care if I stay home. She doesn't mind splitting the bill. We split sometimes or stay home. But I do mind. I have a childhood trauma that results in an excessive focus on money in a very survival way. In our last breakup, my partner wanted to go out more, and I was always too busy or tired work. But I got good word about the job, and it looks like I'm going to get a better offer than my last job. The company is working out the details and says they will call me this week. She is sweet and very understanding. But every time we're together, even though I love that time and think it's the healthiest relationship I've ever had, deep down I feel like I'm avoiding my problems. My credit card bill is late. Every time we go out, I have to do the math by heart. Sometimes we go out to dinner, and I have to calculate the tip, which I always pay properly, exactly so they don't decline my card. It's really stressful. But I love her. She is so understanding. But I don't think she realizes how bad it is, and it's nothing to worry about. I'm trying to keep my composure. When she gets her first paycheck from her new job, she deserves to be invited to a really nice fancy dinner. Again, she says she can stay the night, or even split the bill. I feel like that is an affectionate sentiment that will actually cause resentment over time. The fact that we are moving forward in this relationship with understanding and love makes me feel very positive about our future relationship. I am very embarrassed. She paid for dinner tonight, and it was only $20, but it has been in the back of my mind ever since. I feel like a loser. Story 3. I want another child, which I don't want for other reasons than this one, but I don't think I want another child with him. I'm starting to resent him so much that I resent even being kissed by him, because at the end of the day, it's so overstimulating that I want to bury myself under the blankets and never come out again. I keep track of everything: childcare, chores, financial planning, errands, even when he is off work. I had brought up this concern even before I was pregnant. He promised me that he would be my current parent and equal partner. I told him that after raising several siblings, I never again wanted to raise children completely or almost entirely on my own. That was my major concern. It wasn't until I was about 3 months pregnant that he started to linger so much at home. A few days ago, after he accidentally spilled a glass of water on me, I totally broke down. That's when everything finally exploded. I told him exactly how I felt, what I wanted from him, and that I was very open. I had told him everything before, but I wanted him to finally understand how much I was suffering. So far, no change. He will take a break in a few days. There will be no excuses for him then. If he does not show improvement, I will request couples therapy. My last 2 secrets. If it doesn't work out, I will only stay with him until the kids are school age. Thankfully, I agreed to only do so if I have my own separate savings account where I can put in as much money as I want, whenever I want. I love him very much. I just can't do this. I don't want my children to grow up seeing me miserable. I want to do something. I want to save this marriage. I have to accept the fact that my husband may not want to change until it is too late. We are both children of divorce. I never wanted my babies to grow up that way. Last night I cried and apologized for not having the happy home I wanted. We were the perfect couple before all this happened. Story 4. Her physical complaints are exhausting. She has a bad back and deals with chronic dizziness. I have been there for her for years now. She found out in November that she is going to lose her job. She is currently on the market and under a lot of pressure as the primary breadwinner, but we never talk about how I am doing, only what she is up to. I feel alone and lost, and I don't think she cares that much about me. But I don't think it's possible for any relationship to be 100% about one person and not think about the other person in the slightest. I honestly don't remember my wife asking me, "Hey, how are you doing?" I don't remember my wife ever asking me, "Hey, how are you doing?" On the one hand, she is an incredibly kind person, and I love her dearly. But this has been bugging me for a while now, and I know 100% that I can't talk to my wife about this. Story 5. This is not an absolute. We talk about everything, even meaningless hypotheticals. Just over a year ago, he said something that crushed me. He said it casually and probably didn't mean anything, but it absolutely destroyed my emotions. He knows I have something I want to tell him, but can't till I can separate the subject from my personal hurt. TLDR ends here. What follows are the details. We are not young anymore. He had to undergo a colonoscopy. After the test, when nothing was wrong, he happily said, "I don't have to have it anymore." I told him that he was supposed to have a colonoscopy every 10 years, but he silently said, "I don't plan to live that long." I am a firm believer in bodily autonomy. My son was not circumcised and my daughter did not get her ears pierced until she chose to do so. If my husband decides he wants to get off drugs and decline naturally, I support his right to choose to do so. But I was hurt by that statement. I felt as if my husband had given up on us, on me, after 25 years together. Because of this hurt, I have yet to talk to him about it and clear up the misunderstanding. I still take it as a personal attack, and that is not right. I don't want him to feel pressured to be there for me because of his undue responsibility for my feelings. However, I know that if I try to talk to him before I detach myself from my feelings, I will start crying and he will feel guilty. I do not want to do that to him. I went into the marriage knowing that I would be a widow. I am just sorry that I am now at an age where that possibility is on the horizon. Story 6. The day after I met his parents for the first time in person, I fell asleep in the car on the way to his hometown. Then I woke up to hear them talking about me. His father, a man of few words, said, "Beautiful and intelligent women like her are hard to find. You are lucky and blessed." They continued to speak pure, lovely, unadulterated words about me in Spanish for a while. My boyfriend, thinking I was still asleep, kept kissing my forehead while they talked. I kept listening. Side note, I am Asian, but I had been studying Spanish for a few months to get to know his family better. If I had woke up, they would have thought I didn't understand them. Story 7. She claims to be my rock, but I don't feel at all like she is someone I can turn to when I'm having the hardest time. She is not emotionally responsive to my needs, and her needs seem to be the only ones that matter. When I whine to her, She just seems annoyed and fed up. Yesterday, when I tried to open up to her, she just said that it's so hard to be your everything, to always be your rock. She just said, we have been together for 9 years, married for 7 years, things are only getting worse, and I am considering divorce. She never wants to talk and never takes me seriously. I love her more than anything, but I feel like she has abandoned me, and I miss the person she once was. Hoping she will come back, and because my children and grandchildren love her. Story 8. Sometimes we get tired of chasing a better life. We have been married for 16 years. We have taken turns putting each other through college and starting our careers. I have been the primary breadwinner for some time and have pursued my license to secure another big promotion. And sometimes the weight of responsibility on my shoulders gets to me. But that's just my nature. And as a matter of fact, I'm miserable just being in the passenger seat of my own life. So if I feel like it's a lot, I'll come here to vent. I don't want to stress him out. I just need to get my shoulders back in my big girl pants and get back out there. I also secretly love that he is a solid worker, but work is not his life or his ambition. He works to live, not live to work. I love him for the father and husband he is, and I would not trade any of it. Story 9. Whenever he mentions his late father, I cringe inside. His father was abusive and had been in federal prison for 15 years for a number of terrible crimes. When we first met, all my husband would talk about his father was that he had cut him out of his life because of how awful it was. Eventually, his father died in 2020. I had never seen him before, and I never entered his room while he was on his deathbed. He was unconscious anyway as a precaution against COVID. My husband hadn't seen or talked to his father in years at this point, but at least he got to see him one last time. Now, my husband constantly talks about his father and jokes about his mannerisms and little quirks. The other day, he said, I miss my father. I hate every time he brings it up. Grief and guilt are hard, and I know this is his way of coping, so I put myself on the shelf. I scolded my husband for wanting to display my father's urn in the living room. I don't want to give a wife beating, child beating, spiritually abusive jerk a place of honor above my fireplace. I put my husband's urn away in a room we never use. Story 10. When we first started dating, I was emotionally driven and had little dating experience, so I seriously considered ending the relationship many times during the first 3 or 4 months. But in the end, I fully expected that I was laying the groundwork for an inevitable breakup in the future, thinking that it would not be fair to suddenly break up with him without first expressing my concerns. But every time I brought up an issue, he calmly and kindly acknowledged my concerns and offered a solution or compromise. I love him and obviously don't feel that way anymore, so I won't be telling him how unsure I was of our relationship in the early days. I know he would be hurt if he knew. I feel guilty every time he tells me what a wonderful person I was for putting up with him for the first couple of months while we got to know each other. But I can't think of any reason to burden him with that knowledge because it's not an issue anymore. Story 11. I actually love her. My wife's brother was murdered by his G***y best friend who wanted to date my brother, but of course my brother was straight, so he refused. I'm not trying to demonize G***y people. It just happened that way. She was confused by it, and over the years slowly developed a philophobia of love. Anyway, we continued this relationship and had lots of sex. I won't go into too many details since we were 14, but we did a lot anyway. Anyway, this continued throughout high school, and we stayed together but mainly just did the deed. When we both turned 18, I proposed to her, but of course we had a bit of an argument because of her phobia, which I then learned she had. A few months later we agreed to marry for convenience. I liked her, and she did not want to see other men because of her phobia. However, as the years went by, we had less and less sex, and she became more distant from me, regularly going out with friends, staying an extra hour at work, and not sleeping in the same bed. Despite my offers, she chose the couch. Eventually, I stopped telling her I loved her and showing her affection. Recently, she expressed a desire to be in an open relationship, and I was hurt and reluctantly agreed. I am fed up. I want her to be happy like before. I miss her smile, her beautiful smile, The times we hugged, the B****S, the late night dates, and the countless hours I spent with my head in her lap listening to her stories. Right now, she is very happy with our open relationship, and she thinks I feel the same way. I wanted to confess to her, but in my head I have a feeling she is about to divorce me. I have never slept with anyone else, but I have stopped showing affection because she doesn't want that. But what she doesn't know is that I really do love her. Story 12. She literally saved my life. We've been best friends since I was in 8th grade, and she was in 7th. I met her through a cousin, fell in love with everything about her, had a crush on her from 8th grade until I turned 23, and finally got the courage to tell her about it. She knew, and it was something we both shared, but was hesitant because I didn't want to risk our friendship. When I was 23, my mother committed suicide, and we started dating occasionally, during which time I drank excessively, smoked 5 to 6 grams of concentrated tobacco a day, and abused a lot of Klonopin. She gave me hope. She helped me overcome all these self-destructive behaviors without judgment or criticism. I turned 27 in 4 days. We've been dating for 4 years now, and we got married on March 1st of this year. She is still supportive and pushes me out of my comfort zone to improve myself. I now weigh 170 pounds and no longer kill myself with every substance I thought I needed. She has endured my severe depression and extreme anxiety, and more than that, she understands me. I honestly love and appreciate her more than I know how to put into words. I am convinced that without her, I would have died. Story 13. I do not like to visit his family. His parents tend to be hoarders, and their house is cramped. Most of the day, they just sit around and watch game shows and sports. They play insanely complicated card games, which I still don't understand after all these years. They take it so seriously that it's really stressful to play. The only meals they eat are unseasoned bread and meat. He goes golfing with his father, and I am often left alone with his mother. She always wants to go shopping or to the hairdresser. I don't like either of them, but I feel obligated. Because of a slight language barrier, I am unable to communicate smoothly with them and find it difficult to establish a deeper connection with them beyond formal pleasantries. I feel sorry for them because they are really nice people, but they're just uncomfortable and not pleasant 90% of the time. I'm frustrated all the time. I'm always sad when I go to Christmas because I feel like I'm missing out on Christmas when I could be enjoying it with my own family. Story 14. If he knew, he would probably have a hissy fit. I, 22F, once made hamburger patties with mashed beets mixed in. My fiancé, 23M, won't try anything new or eat anything green, saying I'm not a rabbit and won't eat rabbit food. Before I moved in with him, I was always a veggie and fruit person, but now when I try to make a meal for myself that incorporates fruits and veggies in my diet, it is almost always a waste, like I make it in the proportions I eat. He said no and looked horrified at the beets. So I came up with the idea of mashing the beets with the hamburger meat. It worked very well, just making the meat look reddish black. I watched him eat all 3 hamburgers and told him he loved my cooking. Then I learned that he likes beets. But he doesn't know that. The meat itself had the earthy taste of beets, plus the seasonings. It was delicious. My advice to all you ladies out there who have a lot of likes and dislikes. Story 15. We are by no means miserable. I don't resent him. And we have a good life together. More than that, I recognize that I am not the person for him, but he is without exception codependent, to the point of insisting that I am perfect and no one else is. I am not perfect. I don't think he can give me what I want, whether I ask for it or tell him. So sometimes I feel bad that he would be happier with someone who has the same interests as me, that he doesn't care about what I care about, that he wants something different than what I want. It's a strange relationship. If I am a bum and make him miserable every day for years, he will never walk away from me or tell me I am wrong or that he doesn't like the way he is being treated. So in a way, I fear that if I leave, I will completely destroy him. He insists that I am everything he wants, but in reality, he is distracting me from the conversation about what he wants from me and how I can make him happier. That is not a fair or balanced course of action, but it is the only way he wants it. For the record, I don't think I am the right person for him, but I also don't think anyone else is a better person for me. If anything, I don't want a romantic relationship at all. Story 16. How hard it is for me and my spirit to maintain a home. My wife suffers from severe depression with schizophrenia. At first it was a little under control, but it got worse after our son was born. Now our son is in high school and my wife's condition is the worst it has ever been. She cries all the time and sometimes sleeps all day to stop crying. She always takes everything in the worst way and worries about small things months in advance. The meds are helping a little, hearing voices less often, and the doctor is trying to find the right meds and dosage, but it's pretty exhausting for me. I have to work, grocery shop, and cook. My son is on the autism spectrum. My son himself doesn't seem to care or think much about it, but we, his parents, are quite concerned about his future because of some of his quirks and issues. I always tell my wife I am fine so as not to worry her or cause anxiety attacks, etc. But the truth is I feel completely burned out. For the past year and a half I've relied on alcohol a lot, but I'm trying my best to cut down on it because it's hard on my body. Since I work as a freelance translator, translation fees are low and everything is rush work. I don't really have the option of taking time off or traveling. Too little work, i.e. not enough income, makes me sick to my stomach, and sometimes I have to turn down offers because there is too much work at once. Even small jobs can be overwhelming at times. I don't enjoy my old hobbies anymore. Mostly I just sit around and watch memes, so I don't have to think too much. But giving up is not an option. We've been together for over 22 years. I'm just a little tired. That's all. Thanks for reading this mess. Story 17. He is married now, but when we first started dating, he invited me to hang out with his friends. As soon as we got there, his childhood best friend stopped me and told me I wasn't supposed to be there and no one had invited me. I was taken aback and really embarrassed and apologized but didn't know what to do because my boyfriend and I drove there together. So I stayed silent for the rest of the night and ended up sitting out in the car to make a phone call. I never told my husband that his friend did that. My husband seems to wonder why I rarely go out with him when he goes out with his friends, but I don't have the courage to explain it to him because it's his best friend. Story 18. I know it doesn't matter, but if I undo it after all these years, it's going to be a bigger deal. I was a guy and always had close female friends. Most of my female friends didn't care, and a few were a little jealous. But once I realized that they were friends I had known for years and had never dated, I had nothing to worry about. But once I realized they were friends I had known for years and had never dated, I had nothing to worry about. I promised not to tell anyone about it. When I met my future wife, she asked, "So you and _____ have never dated?" I didn't want to betray my promise to my friends, and I didn't want to make my new girlfriend jealous. So I said, no. A few years later, my future wife asked me again, "She's totally your type." I said no when I should have confessed. My future wife was the type of person who would think, if you're going to lie like that, what else are you going to do? She was the type of person who would think, I'm not the type of person who would do anything else. So I took the easy way out and have always regretted not dealing with it sooner. Story 19. When I was 14, my grandmother died. For years, I bugged my parents because I wanted my own gold necklace. My grandmother had a little money and gave me a gold necklace in her will for $300. It was my pride and joy. I wore it around my neck for 17 years until I met my wife. In those 17 years, I think I took it off my neck maybe 3 times. My wife, then girlfriend, knew how much it meant to me and wanted to wear it just once. But it never came back home. She must have lost it somewhere or had it stolen. I searched for 3 or 4 days, madly distraught, turning the house upside down. Reluctantly, I gave up, but she was very distressed. So I decided to go to a pawn shop and buy the closest thing I could find to a duplicate, and told her I found the necklace among the couch cushions. To this day, she thinks I found the necklace from her grandmother, but this is actually version 2. Story 20. I sometimes feel like I want to leave him on the inside. It's hard because I feel like I have to grow up and find solutions to things at home. He doesn't want to do exercise with me. He is always complaining that some part of his body hurts or that he doesn't sleep well. He wants to play games on his computer. If we try to watch a movie, He constantly stares at his phone, doesn't pay attention, and interrupts us with a video while we are watching the movie. He doesn't play with my daughter even for a second. He has no mental capacity. Self-centered. But I want to get it out somehow. I love him, but it's hard to love him. We discuss many things, and ADHD is a big part of that. I feel my insecurities are incompatible. Story 21. He is not enough. He would be a traditional mainstay, but I don't need him financially, and we have discussed not having children. He is not adventurous, has a scarcity mindset, doesn't share many natural interests in things that I am inherently interested in, doesn't communicate or plan things, trips, shows, fun things, special occasions, to the degree that I think is healthy in a relationship, so he ends up wanting me smaller life and fail to show that we are choosing each other. I am not interested in dating anyone else. I love him very much and support him in his life. Because he deserves a good life and because of his background, he understands the nature of these what I consider shortcomings. He is very stable, resilient, genuinely moral, and a good person. However, in terms of relationships, he feels lonely and inadequate. I do this by traveling more alone, and with girls, most of our fights are about me wanting to travel more than he feels comfortable with, but financially we are both fine. Continuing to focus on other relationships, mother, female friends in different phases of my life, and embracing my own hobbies and activities, I am coping with this. I now have a dog who gives me the love and affection I needed and makes me visible and shares the burden at home. Story 22. I am currently single, but in past relationships I have always hidden all my actual deep hobbies and tastes and will continue to do so. Instead of telling my partner what music I actually like, I tell them it's something I like but am not ashamed of. I tell them my 5th favorite book, but not my first. I don't tell them what I like to read, but not what I don't like to read. When planning a trip, I will not pick the attractions or events I want to see the most, but the ones I am least interested in. I tell a few things I like or want, but never the things I love or crave. If it's something I can't easily hide, like my interest in the field in which I earned my PhD, I'll say that I used to care about it, but now it's nothing more than a passing interest. What I like most is the potential for humiliation and manipulation. I have had so many bad experiences that I don't want to confide in anyone about that sort of thing anymore, at least not with a romantic partner. Story 23. That I betrayed all 3 of my exes. He only knows my most recent ex and why I was abusive and wanted to leave, but couldn't because my ex literally tried to kill me. The affair was my way out. He knows that I had a somewhat open relationship with my second ex, but he does not know that I broke the boundaries I set for openness and slept with someone my ex did not know. I don't want to tell him because I don't think he would trust me if he knew, but I was a different person back then. I have done a lot of work in therapy to figure out why I made the choices I did. If I could go back in time and make different choices, I would, but I can't. I would never cheat on my current boyfriend. I love him too much to hurt him like that. He is someone I can build a life with, and that means more to me than any fleeting approval I can get from a meaningless friendship. Does he have a right to know about my past? Maybe, but I'd rather leave the past where it belongs than bring it up and ruin a possible future with him. Story 24. While engaged, I was in college. I got drunk, which rarely happens, and my girlfriends asked me out. She was a big girl. I didn't like her. I was engaged, and despite the fact that I told her I had only really had sex with 2 people in my life, I really couldn't stop her. She felt I was taking advantage of her and threatened to tell my fiancé that I was a cheater, unless we had sex a few more times. If I pushed back, she threatened to tell her friends and school that I had sex with her. I no longer even enjoyed talking to her, and she became possessive of me. My fiancé knew I was having a very hard time in school. I had never struggled academically before, but she did not know why. Story 25. Neither of us had ever had a crush on anyone. We were literally in our mid-20s and somehow not very romantic. Then when we started dating, she told me that she kept it a secret that she had a crush on me. I told her I felt the same way, but she went on to ask if anyone could know that I had a crush on her. But the truth is, before we started dating, I had never been in love before, so I was having a huge crush panic. I went to her best friend for help, but she was so calm at the time that she even told her best friend that me and her would never work out. Anyway, we are happy and deeply in love now, but honestly, I would never tell her that I told anyone about my crush on her. Story 26. My soon-to-be wife has no secrets. As a soon-to-be married for the third time, I recognized from the beginning of our relationship that she was extraordinary. The good, the bad, and the ugly. This relationship has been incredible. She has accepted me completely and understands my past and the difficult childhood that shaped me. This openness has brought us closer than our relationship with my two previous ex-wives. They did not seem to understand the full extent of my childhood experiences or why certain things like DFS and the police were so frightening to me. Story 27. She had no foresight. All her time was spent as this strange hedonistic drive, and it really irritated me. She came from a well-to-do family and felt like I was isolated because she hated bad feelings, didn't want to hear how her work was affecting me, and generally didn't really understand how best to support my needs. We still keep in touch as friends, but it makes me so angry that I have to work so hard while she lives this life. That's my secret. My secret is that I hate that she barely recognizes what she has. Because the give an inch, take a mile attitude only works when all you really have is an inch. Story 28. I told my wife that I was on my way to Sydney for work when something fell from the sky and broke the back seat window of my car going through the runway tunnel at the Sydney airport. As I was driving through the tunnel, a huge spider ran up my arm and I flipped it off and lost it. After I exited the tunnel, I pulled over to servo, jumped out of the car, and brushed the body off. As the spider ran to the back window, I picked up my squeegee and swatted it with the side of the squeegee. The spider ran back into the car. I found the spider in the back seat, killed it, and went to work. I had a chance to call my now wife and told her I was about to enter the tunnel, and at the same time a plane was rolling over the tunnel and the window was broken. Story 29. In fact, I told them everything. I even told them about my OCD, which I couldn't even tell my therapist about, but as it is, I told them the most horrible things that were on my mind, and just when I thought they would recoil and walk away, she just hugged me. Every time she hugged me and calmed me down, she helped me work through everything I was diagnosed with together. It was hard for her and very painful. She chose to be there for me and work through it, no matter how difficult I was, especially before treatment. Even when I messed up badly, she was there for me. She helped me grow as a person more than I could have ever imagined and saved my life. She is the light that guides me in my darkest moments and the gentle breeze that blows in my peaceful moments. More than a wife, she's my partner, my best friend, and when I got my fire escape at OSRS, I ran up to her room, and she was so excited, though SE didn't understand. She hugged me and kissed me. She is everything I want, and more than that, she is someone I can't even imagine. You will never see this because you didn't like Reddit that much, but I will love you forever. Story 30. I try to do little things that I know will make her feel better, but she will never know it is me. One day when I dropped her off at work, I noticed an animal tearing off a bunch of trash from the trash can. She complained that her manager would make her clean it up later. I told her I was sorry she had to do that and that I would make her cupcakes when I got home. After my wife went inside, I cleaned up the trash and went home and made cupcakes. When my wife came home, I greeted her with cupcakes. My wife told me all about her trip to clean out the trash. I would never tell her and would never stop doing it. There is something about a gift from the universe that really makes people happy. Of course, she would be happy if she knew it was me, but it's not the same as the universe helping me help myself. Story 31. Her family has a history of mental illness, and once we argued, I told her my biggest fear was that she would become mentally ill and I would have to watch her slowly become a monster. Besides, I don't know if staying with her is the right choice. When I say she is mentally ill, my great-grandmother drove my grandfather to suicide, and my grandmother physically abused and tortured her family for fun. So I think this is a warning sign that my wife will become an abusive monster later in life. But I am having a hard time knowing if I should leave her. But I love my wife, and I can't let her go, even though I might. I just sit here with my fingers crossed, praying that I'm wrong and that the person I love more than life itself will remain that person and that I won't willingly throw away my future with P. Story 32. His family is aggressively negative about everything, and he yells at his children and dogs for just breathing. Lie down on the bed. The dogs just walk around and exist. He tells the children to stop eating, to shut up, to stop doing this. They too are just existing. By forcefully negative, I mean forcefully, for all kinds of things. The color of that pavement is F *** G, disgusting. And so on. I try so hard to avoid being with them, but they want to hang out every day, and it's so physically exhausting. My poor dogs just want affection, but they are always yelled at and confined. Sometimes in their own home. No good. Don't tell my dog to get off the couch and go outside. My dog, my couch, my house. My dog, my couch, my house. He can't see it and gets very angry if I say anything other than nice things. Story 33. I no longer find my wife attractive. We have been married for 4 years. She was married once, and according to her, that marriage ended because her ex cheated on her and abused her. She wanted to go into detail about when we dated and got married, but I decided not to ask because that is in the past and this is a new chapter. This was our first marriage. When we met, she was actively trying to lose her weight, which was one of the reasons I was attracted to her. But right after we got married, she became super comfortable and seemed to stop working on herself. We don't have kids yet, but since we've been married, she's already gained between 60 and 90 pounds in fits and starts. I try to stay healthy, but her food choices affect my diet. Still, I make an effort. But she doesn't want to try at all. I have pointed this out to her several times, sometimes gently, sometimes jokingly. What she does is train for a few days or weeks and then stop altogether. And I stopped talking to her about it. But now I don't even want to cuddle, let alone have sex. Story 34. This will be buried, but when I was born, my parents had a dog. My mother was always talking about Sammy, saying things like, I hope Sammy is in a warm home with a nice family, and imagining that Sammy would be happy elsewhere. According to my father, when I was about 10 or 11 years old and Sammy ran away from home, he drove out to look for him and actually found him. He was hit by a car and died in my father's arms, crying face, but my father never had the courage to tell my mother. I know it may seem messed up, lying, not allowing myself to grieve, but I think it's kind of nice to know that he was sad about his death, but still hopeful and happy. But the story shook me up. Story 35. How much we wanted children. Yes, we talked about it early on, and we were on the same page. It was never a rush or a must, but it was important that it was on the table as an option. At some point, he changed his mind. It wasn't that he wasn't capable or worthy of being a parent. He already was. It wasn't a discussion. It was a drunken statement. But my love for him is greater than my desire to have children. I would be lying if I said it wasn't a big difference. It really pains me inside because we work with children, but there is nothing we can do about it. I justify it by thinking that I am probably not a good parent anyway. I can make this decision. But I never want him to know how badly it is affecting me. I don't want him to feel bad about something he has every right to say and feel. Story 36. A friend of my fiancé was harassing me at school. It started with name calling, and in 10th grade, he touched me twice. I did not see him again until I started dating my fiancé. He used to like me, and I found out that he was just making fun of me for that because other boys used to tease him about it. But he seemed really remorseful. Given that, I decided not to bring it up with my boyfriend. He turned out to be a wonderful man and now has a wonderful husband. I am so relieved that he didn't say anything about this and ruin his friendship with his fiancée and her husband, even if that didn't necessarily put him on his butt. He is now one of my best friends. Story 37. That New Year's Eve 2022, I couldn't find a place to stay because you didn't ask me to spend my favorite holiday with you. I slept in my car in minus 10 degrees. My best friend, who let me stay the night, made a pass at me because she knew that if I didn't leave the house, I would betray you. I knew that if I cheated on you, that would be the hardest person for you to deal with. All night long, I kept being tempted to go back and knock on his door, but the thought of betraying you and seeing the pain in your eyes was not worth it, so I simply endured the cold until the sun came up. I didn't want you to feel guilty, so I lied to you that I had found another place to stay. All the while you were cheating on your ex-girlfriend. I still wonder if she was with you on New Year's Eve, and that's why you didn't have a place to stay. Anyway, freak your Alex. Story 38. We had a cat a few years ago. I did too, but the two of them had a much stronger bond. Somehow he got out while we were bringing groceries into the house and never showed up when we called him back with treats, so after 6 months, I kind of gave up. I reassured my husband that she was very cute and someone must have taken her in. Well, during the winter, while my husband was back in his home country, one night, I came home after work to find him frozen to death, hiding behind a garbage can. I did not have the courage to tell my husband about it. My husband's heart would be too broken, and he preferred the theory of a new family. So I live with the sad thought of my daughter frozen solid outdoors. Story 39. I am at the bottom of my life, and I have never felt worse. Every waking moment, I am constantly fighting the urge to kill myself. I am constantly trying to find something to keep me occupied, but I burn myself out in the process. My wife knows that my mental health is deteriorating. She knows I am seeing a psychiatrist and a therapist. She sees a psychiatrist and a therapist. She's aware, just not someone who knows how to help in any way, shape, or form. I was kicked out of my parents' house when I was 18 just for dating my now wife, who is of a different ethnicity and religion. I am now 25 years old. Last year I had to move in with my wife's family. I'm not a homeless person, or I would have to give up my wife's 2 rabbits that she adores. I thought that moving to her parents' house would give me a fresh start, and I would finally know the love of a parent for their children. Unfortunately, I was wrong. Her father turned out to be a racist man-child. He is a conservative Christian. For the first few months, he was quite friendly, but after about 3 months, he wanted me out of the house as soon as possible. His fuse exploded after my wife told him that we had absolutely no savings to buy a rental house. Rental houses are not common in Singapore. He then said that he wanted a son-in-law of the same ethnicity and religion as us. He further told my wife that I was a con man trying to take advantage of her. He also told me that I might be an extremist/terrorist because of my brown skin color. I think he is disappointed and ashamed that my wife chose me as her husband, knowing that I am not a successful person and seeing this country and culture. I have lived in their homes like A.S***E. I am forced to keep their house clean every day. If I don't, their fuses get lit again, and they start throwing tantrums, yelling explosives, and physically attacking things around the house. My wife has 2 rabbits. They are free range, but he often makes a mess of the hay in the house and bedding in the bathroom and leaves pee trails. The mere sight of me triggers him too. He is a retiree, and I recently lost my job in January due to harassment by my new boss. He was fired a month after I was fired in January. I am afraid to sleep because I constantly have PTSD-induced nightmares related to the physical abuse I suffered from my family when I was younger. He has no support from his family and lost his only best friend last November. In his defense, he had known me for over 7 years and was sick of hearing how why my life was and was burned out on it. We had a fight over the fact that he didn't like the songs he was teaching me, and then we lost contact. This was after a one-on-one session with an abusive boss who accused me of having health problems and taking a leave of absence. At that point, the urge to throw myself into traffic reached a climax, and I regretted not doing so. Every day I am alone and isolated from the world. I have no friends to support me, and my wife doesn't help me much. I try to interact with my wife and invite her to play games with me. I miss not being able to have fun with my friends. I miss not being able to speak. I miss being able to express my feelings. Every day I try to be silent and not trigger my father-in-law. I minimize my physical presence. I defecate only when my parents are not home, and it is very painful because I have to resist the urge to pee or poop. Every day I have to clean a house before my in-laws come home from work. Every day I feel so alone. Every day I ask myself what I was born for. My own family disowned me over religion and partner selection. Now my in-laws deny my very existence and even try to convince my wife that I may be a fraud. I am bound to this world every day because I want to repay my wife what I owe her. Without my wife, I would not be able to pay my rent, and I would be homeless as a teenager. I'm tired. I am doing the best I can. My wife is trying to keep this marriage together through no fault of her own. She is tired too and has absolutely no desire to be intimate with me with all that is going on in the house. But I wish I could fight the voices in my head better. I am lonely. I am exhausted. I miss my wife. I miss my best friend. I don't want to live anymore. I am tired. If there was assisted suicide in Singapore, I would choose it without thinking. There is no point in living. I let my family down by my choice of partner. I let down my wife's parents with my ethnicity. I destroyed a friendship with the only person who has been there for me from the beginning. I am a failure who relies on government largesse. I am a failure, and I don't deserve to live. I just hope that when the time comes, I can make it through and not be intimidated. Story 40. He really resents how his mother raised him and his brother. He laughs about it and says discipline had to be strict because she had to raise 2 boys by herself. But what he says is abuse. He said she was hit with a belt with something every other day, if not every day. She also said that she once punched her BIL squarely in the chest when he bristled at her. My husband is insecure and doesn't think it could be because of what happened to him as a child. My mother told me that in a conversation with her, she asked me how I used to be physically punished. My mother replied that she had done no such thing and that the conversation was awkward from there because my MIL is very kind, very good to us, and loves and dotes on her grandchildren. But knowing what I know, she will never be able to get to me. Story 41. I've known Mrs. H for 5 years now. Her close family threw a baby shower and made a big deal out of the fact that it was her first baby. Throughout the day, pictures were taken with various people, many of which meant nothing to the parents. I was not in any of the pictures. 0. Not one person asked if I wanted to be in the picture. I was not in any of the many family pictures. I felt incredibly left out. You may wonder why I didn't ask. I lost my confident voice a long time ago when people bullied me, put me down, or just silenced me, and for over a decade I felt like my voice and opinion didn't matter. It's weird, but I'm a teacher now, LOL. My whole life, I have been silenced. I am not fussed about it, just feel left out. My wife seems to be mad and wants to say something, but I never speak up and cause drama. I like the quiet life. Story 42. She used to make an effort, and I miss that she doesn't now. I know that relationships evolve, but there is no way that as we continue our relationship, she hasn't regressed in what she offers in the dynamic of our relationship. I am the opposite. The problem is that bringing it up makes us even worse and takes away from things being more the way I want them to be. So you just want change and accept that it's not going to happen. That is pretty soul-destroying. People seldom change, and they almost certainly won't change if you push them in a certain direction, so you have to accept it or move on. The problem is when you don't want to move on and start over again, but you don't know how to get back to the person you once were. So my secret is that she doesn't know that I will go through another day smiling and wishing for a glimpse of what we used to have. Story 43. His parents are wealthy, he has 0 drive, and is essentially a man-child. But now we have to feed our own kid, and the parents are sick of giving him money. He realizes that he has wasted 10 years of our marriage trying to get a 6-pack, putting company money into a joke, Kickstarter, and having lunch with influencers, the hot girls he wanted in college. I am tired of being sensible. It's exhausting. Story 44. That I've gained some weight in the last few months and am ashamed to be pictured with him. He hasn't said anything negative about my body or my recent weight change in years. He loves me just the way I am, but lately I have been lacking confidence because of my appearance. He is so skinny that in pictures with him, I look like a whale. I'm open with him about getting healthy, but deep down I don't feel like I deserve him because of my weight. I try to be healthy physically and mentally so that I can not only look good, but also feel good. I just don't think I can say that I feel sick about my body because when we take pictures together, I look huge compared to him. Story 45. I love him, but I am not in love with him anymore. We met when we were 20 and married when we were 24. I have grown a lot since we started dating. We have 3 children and only 3 more years until the last one goes to college. I am now quite successful in my career, but I think that was a problem because he was always the breadwinner. He often tells me I have masculine energy. He is angry because I am not the same person he met 25 years ago. I used to be very dependent on him and very submissive. Throughout our relationship, he was always a heavy drinker. I despised it and hated being around him when he drank. I knew that as he got older, his drinking would decrease. We grew apart over the years, and for the last 3 years, we have lived like roommates. He says we are just at rock bottom and that 20 years of marriage has its ups and downs, but I don't think rock bottom lasts this long. We haven't been intimate for years, and he recently admitted he doesn't like kissing. We are not interested in the same things anymore, and I am just waiting for my youngest to go to college. Then, whatever happiness he is looking for, I can leave him and find someone more compatible. I have no qualms about living the rest of my life alone. I've been lonely for so many years. I think I know exactly what to do. Story 46. That I had a sexual relationship for 2 months with a colleague of her acquaintance. But this is not as bad as it sounds. The 3 of us worked in the same office about 14 years ago. My current girlfriend and another coworker were married at the time, but we were all friends and got along well. About 12 years ago, my girlfriend quit her job, but we stayed in touch. In 2016, the other coworker got divorced, and a few months later we became friends with benefits for 2 months. Just as the feelings were beginning to manifest, we discussed it and decided that while we were compatible in bed, we could not be a compatible couple. We decided to stop having sex to preserve our friendship. Nothing physical has happened since. About a year later, my girlfriend divorced, and a few months after that we started dating and are still together. Since my coworker and I are still friends, I didn't want to risk jealousy, so I decided not to tell her that I slept with her a few years ago. I may be wrong to some extent, but there is absolutely nothing between my coworker and me. We are just friends. In fact, she has remarried, and I know she has not told her husband about our 2 or 3 month-long tryst about 7 years ago. Story 47. My partner's parents are very wealthy, own a lot of real estate, and are very supportive of us. Thanks to them, we have never had a problem finding a place to live with lower than normal rent. We probably owe them tens of thousands of dollars with the money we saved on rent. They don't mind at all and say they are willing to help. However, one of them is completely self-centered and quite manipulative, and I fear that one day they will throw it back in our faces if they don't get what they want from us. Story 48. We just moved into our first apartment together. Our life is actually going well, as we have discussed for years. But he works very hard, and I work very hard. He works so much that I feel bad saying anything, but I miss the house without him. I have treatment-resistant major depressive disorder, and it is really hard for me to be alone. I feel that I am a failure and a burden to him. Asking him to pay for things I need in the house makes me anxious, even if I know it is something we both need. I feel more depressed than ever before, even though so many positive things have never happened to me in such a short span of time. I never tell him so as not to worry him. He literally works 75-hour days every week with no breaks, so I just keep pushing. If I don't do the dishes or laundry, it never gets done. Poor guy, when he goes home, he sleeps and eats. I can't blame him. He says he doesn't care because I just got a better paying job and I can cut back on my work soon, but it's just really hard when I always feel like I'm not doing enough somewhere in my life. Story 49. I slept with over 1,000 women. Growing up, I was fat and shy, but H***y. I was also addicted to poor ***y from an early age. I was also fat, so all I could think about was women until around the age of 20 I lost weight, got fit, and became quite handsome. My life for the next 15 years was to K as many girls as I could. Whether it was working as a club rep for 5 years in a foreign club where I would have sex with 2 girls a night, traveling around Europe in a camper, and making it my sole mission to sleep with as many women as possible in each country, riding my bike across the U.S., and trying to sleep with a woman in every state. 3 so ***es. 14 women in 12 nights, married women, even a bride in a hen's nest one night. I don't know why, but even my peers used to say I was obsessed, etc. And today I am 37 years old and a little overweight. Now I have a wonderful woman who knows very little about my past. I seem like a genuinely normal guy, but when I talk to women it gives me confidence and I'm good at it, so she notices sometimes. But some days I feel like I should tell her. Story 50. I am no longer with that partner, but she had a long history of bad partners who were narcissistic and manipulative, evidence of which, unfortunately, I have had to meet many such partners. I have always been a very manipulative person, not in the sense of actively messing with someone's head or emotions, but I have spent much of my life having to work to protect myself from bad situations, and I have spent much of my professional life in the customer service industry. So even if there is no significant difference in our actual personalities and we are just outgoing and unenthusiastic, we intentionally curry favor with others and often make a show of it. Many times throughout our relationship, I have used these traits to our benefit, whether financially or socially, to the people we interact with, not her, and she either did not realize I was doing so or did not say anything. Story 51. If I ever get married, I may tell him, but I know it will sound crazy to him if I try to explain it. 2 years ago, I went to an event in California on a whim. My first trip alone, my first planned trip. I needed to get out of an abusive relationship and go far away. 2 weeks before I went, I heard in my head, this trip will change your life forever. And I had a good time. On the last night, I started talking to this girl. She told me that even though we were at this party, there was a rendezvous going on down the street. At that moment, for some reason, I knew I had to go. I felt like I would miss something special if I didn't. So I left the party and walked fast to that meeting place. As I walked, I heard, "You will be loved." I didn't know anyone there, but I started talking to some people and they invited me to their hotel room. While I was on the bed talking to strangers, a very cute, slightly drunk guy and his friend walked in. I was immediately attracted to him. We started talking and he was definitely flirting. I could tell the other girls were into him and I didn't want to rub shoulders, but I wanted some info on him and I really like everyone here. So could I get everyone's contact info so we can stay in touch? It worked and we were long distance friends for a while. And after about a year of being friends, we confessed our feelings to each other. And after a long distance relationship, we are now living together. We are not perfect. We have made mistakes. This is the healthiest and happiest relationship I have ever been in. My life has changed, and I finally get to experience what it actually feels like to be loved. Story 52. I'm not sure I can be the man she deserves. She loves me and supported me for years until she found out about my financial lies. I am amazed that she did not try to call off our marriage. She has been the light of my life for almost 12 years, and I fear I have not been a worthy husband. I haven't helped her clean well, and I have frustrated her by not being able to keep up with her sexual needs. I am a very jealous person, even though I know she would never cheat on me. I honestly don't know why I am attracted to her, given my lack of confidence and motivation, and I fear that I am unintentionally encouraging too many bad habits in our marriage. Story 53. Sometimes I almost lose hope. We have had a virtually dead bedroom for about 9 months now. We both suffer from depression, and in the last 6 months, he has had some pretty significant changes in his health and lifestyle. I have tried to support him as best I can, but I am struggling to have any hope that life in our bedroom will get better. I love him very much, and our other relationships are great. But this lack of physical intimacy, not just sexless, is making us unhappy. I think this man is meant to be, and he is my best friend. I am so excited to take the next step later this year. But right now it's hard. He's still healing from his wounds and his energy is down, so it's not fair to expect too much from him just yet. We have had conversations long before the surgery about how the dead bedroom is affecting us, and it has always been the same conversation. We have previously discussed getting help regarding the bedroom, and he has done nothing about it. We are going to see a doctor soon. It is just very frustrating, and sometimes there is no hope that it will get better. Story 54. He said that my mother's death was my fault. My mother called me after work and asked me to stop by for a COVID test and pull socks because she thought it was COVID. I called my wife and she was really stressed out about the kids and we have a test at our house and I said, What difference does it make if I find out it's COVID now or in the morning? I said, I listened to my wife, and my mother said, well, yes. The next day, my 5-year-old daughter and I were supposed to spend the day with her, but when I called her, she thought she was sleeping, so we left the test outside, and we went about our day. That afternoon, I found her dead on the couch, like she had died around 1 a.m. the night before. I keep thinking that if only my mother had left me alone to deal with this for her instead of stressing me out, and if only she had taken an extra half hour with the kids, she would have had a chance to go to the hospital and survive. I have regretted that every day since. Story 55. I'm a male 31 years old, and when I first met my girlfriend, she became my wife at 27, who I was dating at 22. Her mom was just polite. Her dad was cool to really aggressive, and after a few months, she started sending me sexual letters in the mail. It was a month and 4 days, and I thought it was my wife. And I heard a knock at the door, thinking it was my wife. When I opened the door, I felt an aggressive kiss and a tug on my clothes. I grabbed her breasts under her shirt and stepped on second base, but her breasts were, how can I say this, bigger than my hands. I pulled her away from me and asked her why she was doing this, and she said she felt sexually unloved because her husband was always tired from work and I was young and the only man she had left at home for a while. But we talked it over, and I asked her why she didn't use her toys. Believe it or not, she was afraid of getting a shock over there. I told her that she should talk to her husband. This was really embarrassing. Story 56. 2 things. 1. After our date, when she went to pay for parking at the parking kiosk, I moved out of the tight spot and scraped the wall, leaving a big scratch and a bad dent on the side. I panicked and didn't say anything, but she didn't notice for a few days and seemed to think it was from my usual week out. I let her think that and pretended to be surprised when she showed me. The wound was removed, but the thick dent still lives. Point 2. Dating for distance, she seems like the last person I will spend the rest of my life with, but part of me is worried that I haven't gotten it all out yet. Sometimes I secretly hope that this relationship will end on good terms and that we will meet again in a year or 2 when I can go back to being single. But on the other hand, I love her to death and want that forever. In a way, I may be afraid of spending the rest of my life with her.